All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for our Community Engagement Module live demo. We're very excited to have you here. Before we get started, as we go through the presentation, feel free to drop any questions that you might have into the Q&A chat box right at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we're going to leave some time at the end to go through them. So now I will go ahead and introduce today's presenters. Jeremy Farrell is TerraGo's VP of Operations with more than 20 years of experience in utility operations in the energy and utility industry. And Chip Hathaway, TerraGo's VP of Products, is a technology executive with over 20 years of experience leading product management and engineering teams in the software and IT industry. So here is Jeremy Farrell to get things started for us.
Hey, good afternoon, all. First off, thank you everyone for joining, taking some time out of your day to join us and learn a little bit more about some of the TerraGo offerings, more specifically the community engagement module. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this platform architecture slide, as most folks on the line are familiar with TerraGo. But as you recall, TerraGo is set up in a modular format. Currently, we have 6 different modules, various usage amongst some of the participants on the call. But today we wanted to focus specifically on the community engagement module, which is a module that is our newest module for TerraGo. I've had it for a little over a year and a half. That we believe provides quite a bit of benefit for the utility landscape. Madison, you can switch to the next one. So, realistically, wanted to talk about what is the community engagement module. It's something that, kind of came about as we listened to the necessary usage from some of our customers, right? So providing some powerful benefits to utilities and organizations. As we listened to some of our customers and how they wanted to utilize TerraGo, how they wanted to utilize their data, their information. The community engagement module was kind of born out of that. Really, the community engagement module is a way to really connect with the community, as it says, right? Really empowering communities. A big part of the community engagement module is taking in customer input, right? Most utilities already have older systems to take in customer input. But really, what happens after that, right? Is it call centers? Is it emails? Is it what is that, right? So how do they utilize that information? How do they utilize that data, right? Really, with the most of the systems that are out there now and the processes in place by utilities, customer information can be very valuable, right? The input that customers are providing. But a lot of times it creates kind of noise for utilities. Can be duplicate tickets, can be disconnected systems, and quite frankly, can even create unnecessary truck rolls. A big part of us putting this community engagement module in place was to eliminate a lot of that and streamline efficiency. Um, Also to be able to really engage with the community. A lot of times, I know a lot of folks on the phone probably are used to the old adage of customers calling in with an outage, uh, probably getting multiple calls on the same outage. And if those things aren't tied together in the appropriate way, really can lead to duplicative truck rolls, can lead to inefficient work rules, can lead to inefficiency overall. Not only on the other side, though, is reducing those duplicative truck rolls, making workflows more streamlined, more efficient, right? There's also a communication back to the customer, right? That can create time and expense, right? Really what the customers are seeing, um, we want to make sure that we're aware of that, right? So as those inputs are coming in from the community engagement module, they're automatically evaluated through TerraGo, and aligned to existing work, or is it new work? Really a big part of the community engagement module is, critically making sure that the same information is visible across the entire organization. Field crews, dispatch, supervisors, customer service call centers, making sure that everyone is working from the same real-time operational picture. Every interaction either reinforces existing work or creates new actionable work as needed. A big part of community engagement is really it's about communication, but it's really at the end about driving execution. Madison? So really, how does it work? From a customer perspective, right? They can take a look at real-time visibility via maps and notifications. They can understand what's already being addressed, right? Customer can go on to the map. All this will be demoed by Chip in a little bit later. But as the customer is going on to look at a streetlight outage and say, hey, this is out. I need to report this. A lot of times right now they're picking up the phone. Sometimes their neighbor's also picking up the phone. Sometimes somebody driving by is also picking up the phone, right? If we do it through the community engagement portal, what happens is, right, as those things are reported, the next person that goes in to report sees that it's already been reported, it's already in progress. They can start taking a look at, all right, how is this going to be fixed? When is it going to be fixed? Instead of creating additional work for the individual utilities, right? Less need for reporting those issues in. And on the flip side, right, they can sign up for automatic updates. So anybody that does a report can get an update on what is the status, right? How's this working? Madison? So we've had, as I mentioned before, right, the community engagement module was born out of a need for customers, right? A need from the TerraGo customers saying, hey, we need to figure out a better way to engage with our community to make sure that we are engaged with them, we're being efficient, et cetera, right? So a couple different use cases I want to go over. These are not all exhaustive. Community engagement module can be used for many different things, but a couple different use cases that I will highlight. One being Georgia Power, right? They wanted to really take these customer inputs that are coming into their call centers or coming into their service center operators, et cetera, right? They really wanted to understand and be able to get their hands around this as they were rolling quite a bit of duplicate trucks to fix seemingly the same issues. Right. So we put this in place for Georgia Power with nearly over 1 million lights territory wide. The majority of which actually do not or are not connected and do not have network lighting controls. So this works for both connected and unconnected lights. Basically, by putting this in place, allowing individuals, customers to go in, report outages, etc. They showed a true benefit of actually reducing over 100,000 call center calls and volume. They actually saw an increase in faster outage restorations because they were no longer chasing what I call phantom tickets, right? Tickets that were created as duplicates from multiple customers reporting in. Like I said, definitely eliminated the unnecessary truck rolls. And then, quite frankly, on the back end, improved customer satisfaction, right? I think this is always a big part of the utilities mantra, right? How do we improve customer satisfaction? Right? This is a relatively simple way to do that on a highly visible part of the utility, right? We all know that everybody knows when a street light's out, right? We all know that from a utility perspective, it's not always the highest priority item, but can become a sense of pain for a lot of customers, right? A lot of times, those same customers are the same ones going to the public service commissions or the public utility commission saying, look at this utility, they can't even keep my street light in play, right? This is a valuable tool to be able to even show, quite frankly, at the PSC level or the PUC level that, hey, we are engaging with our customers. We are thinking about how do we improve the satisfaction? How do we improve the communication? How do we engage with that community and our customers on a regular basis? Obviously, through things like eliminating unnecessary truck rolls and things like that, they saw an actual lowered O&M costs associated with utilizing the customer engagement module. And then, as I mentioned, this was specifically rolled out at Georgia Power. Um, Somewhat of a pilot. It works so well. They were so happy with the results. They have now decided to expand this module across all of the Southern Company operating companies, including Mississippi Power, Alabama Power, etc. That's so a slightly different use case was utilized at the city of Philadelphia as well as a couple of other locations. So what they wanted to do from a engagement standpoint with their customers and with their community is show progress related to a highly visible announced smart LED streetlight conversion program. So what we worked with the city of Philadelphia on is creating a map that basically would show the status of the upgrades, not only the status of the upgrades, to the community, to the customers. But hey, when are they going to be in my area, right? This interactive map really provided, engagement with the community, engagement with the customers, and then quite frankly, reduced a lot of inquiries that were coming in asking, hey, when are you kind of going to be in my area? When is this going to change in my area? Right? So through the community engagement module with the city of Philadelphia, we worked with them to do a map block type system where they gave us and we showed on a public facing module where they were going to be at any given week throughout the entirety of the process, right? So customers could sign up for notifications for any changes, delays, any expedited nature situations. Um, but again, this one did a couple of things, right? Really engage the city of Philadelphia with their customers, trying to reduce a lot of that questions, right? We all know when big implementations are announced throughout the community, right? There's thousands of questions of when's this going to happen? What's it going to look like for me? When am I affected? How am I affected? This was a great way for the city of Philadelphia to connect with their citizens, with their folks, and keep people truly informed. Um, Again, with this program, it worked so well that Philly was nominated and chosen for a Smart 20 award around the company web portal. That is so. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chip Hathaway, who is going to actually demo and show you some of these use cases and show you how part of the community engagement module is utilized by some of our customers. And again, these are not all exhaustive ways for this to be used. So please think about it in your mind, right? How would you want to engage with your community, customers, with your data, et cetera? So I appreciate your time. And again, I'm turning it over to Chip.
Thanks, Jeremy. All right, so I'm going to start by focusing on Georgia Power and really the broader Southern Company use case of how they're using the community engagement model. And it's very focused right now on streetlight outage reporting and allowing their customers to be able to report and be able to identify any issues out on the field. Um, on the left side of my screen here, you're actually looking at my web browser, just a standard web browser. And on the right side, you are looking at my iPhone. And this is a browser on that iPhone. But I'll start by looking on the left. So Georgia Power has the community engagement module, and working with Scotty Burks and getting that capability rolled out. You can see we're embedded within, as you look at this screen, you can see this is the Georgia Power website, but the community engagement module is this interactive map that is embedded within their website. And so as I zoom in here, you'll see information start to pop in, and I can zoom all the way down to the lowest levels, and you'll see they have all of their known streetlights reported in the system. And so what you can see right off the bat is it's not just a blank map where you're asking the customer to figure out where the problem is. It was originally loaded from their GIS system, which Not all systems have the best information, but it's also then continued to be populated as they've gone out and done conversions and installations of smart controllers, because now the TerraGo system in the back end is actually collecting more and more information about where all their assets are located. And so we're continuing to make the data better and better for users. As I move around in the map and I'm looking at Atlanta right now, you can quickly see, I'll zoom in on one where a customer's already reported an outage. So if I click on this one, you will see there's already a reported issue against this one. And there's no actions to be taken. A user will be able to see that there's a reported issue, and you won't get duplicate reports. You won't have a customer reporting in saying there's multiple issues. You don't roll multiple trucks. If I click on one that doesn't have an issue reported against it, you'll quickly see that they have the ability to do what's called report a streetlight issue. However, one of the key things is that although we can get access to this through a web browser, people usually aren't sitting in front of their computer when they find out that there's a light out. They might be walking a dog. They might be walking down a city street. So we like to focus on the fact that this is fully mobile supported. And so I'll move over to the right side and you'll see this is the exact same application in a mobile presentation. And what I'm going to do, and you can see the map, same exact map is there. I can zoom in, but I'm also going to go, there's a link here that I can touch on. So it says click here for a full screen map. And that'll allow me to drill in and actually look at a more detailed view and gives you a little more flexibility on the screen. So I'm going to go into an area here. So if I'm out for a walk and I see a street light is out, this is how Georgia Power directly interacts with their customers. So I can touch on one of these street lights, and then I can touch on report a street light outage. And then you can walk through the entire Georgia Power required workflow for being able to report a streetlight outage. We always say this, but the application's 100% configurable. The little dots that you see on the map to the questions that you ask in workflows, essentially how the system shows itself to your customers is driven by your requirements and what information you want to collect. So just walking through a quick workflow here, I can say, yes, I'm reporting a repair. They wanted to be able to add in, are you interested in adding new lights? So opportunity for upsell there. I'm going to say no. And I'm going to quickly go through what's the type of issue here. And let's say for this one, lights out. And then you have the ability to say, are there multiple lights out at this location? Is a single? Let's say it's multiple lights. It'll quickly ask for how many lights are out. So let's say I see 8 lights are out in that area. And it asks for if you have the poll numbers, grab them, but I don't think a lot of people are going to enter a lot of text there. Say no gate code, no business. You can add additional comments. One of the key things that's really important here is we allow the customer to collect information about and use a picture. So it's not just data, it's actually a picture of what's there. And that helps the crews be able to identify if it's a pole knockdown, what equipment do I need? What's the right truck that I need to roll for this correction, for this repair? So we allow them to collect pictures. You can either upload, you can take that picture directly from your device, or you can upload it from something that's already been stored. And then the customer has the ability to say, I want to receive updates on this order or on this repair. And so they can select yes, they can go through the flow and be able to say their name. All these fields are required, phone number, email, all of that, and they can add additional emails. So let's say it's a homeowners association and an outage was reported by a resident, but the HOA also wanted to be in there, so they can add additional emails. What happens when I hit submit, and I won't do this right now because this is actually their public system, is we collect the information. It goes into TerraGo. For Georgia Power and for Southern Company at large, we have an integration with their work order system. So actually, we take this information, we collect it, we store it in TerraGo. But then we also then transmit a message over to their work order system. That message actually includes the images. So when that work order is generated, the crew has access to the images of what happened at that site or what the customer is seeing. And so all that information is done, all of that information is transmitted seamlessly. No one has to take an action. Yeah, the option of being able to sit in the middle of that process and be able to review and say, yes, I want to pass this on and assign the work order, or you just allow that to stream through the systems. That is entirely up to you how you want to see that implemented. I'm going to cancel this one. And then that customer would end up seeing, and they would start getting messages saying, here's the latest status. So the work order was created, a crew's been assigned. Again, all of that is configurable at how much data you want to get out to the customer. It could be you don't report until it's been resolved. Or I think for Georgia Power and generally Southern Company's broader use case, they said they wanted crew being assigned, repair complete, or crew's gone to the site, looked at the issue, and reported back there's more repairs to be made. Maybe it's underground where they need a different type of crew or something else is driving that scenario. End result is, though, that you get full notification as a customer when the repair is complete and when service has been restored. The other aspect of this, and I'll go back to my browser here, is Southern Company, as Jeremy had mentioned earlier, Southern Company used a solution at large, and they used it across all three of their operating companies. So each of those operating companies have different websites that you'll see as I move between them. Mississippi Power, same view, same look and feel, and Alabama Power, same view, same look and feel. And this is collecting information. This isn't just about smart streetlights. I should be really clear. It doesn't have to have a controller for a customer to report an outage. Controllers are great. They add an additional layer of information, and hopefully they'll detect the outage well before a customer does. But importantly, this is about all assets in the field. And it has the flexibility. That asset, Southern Company used the model of collecting streetlights, but it doesn't have to be streetlights. You could be collecting outage information across a broad array of things. You can be doing things, collecting information around the time of, say, a weather event that's caused broader issues. I'm going to quickly click over to Philly just to mention this because we were showing that, we were talking about, Jeremy was talking about that earlier. And you can see this is more about communicating with the community about where the deployment's going. And as I zoom in, Philly's pretty much done with their project. So most of these lights are going to be green, but as Jeremy mentioned, these were different colors for being able to report where are they going to be working week to week, how are they going to be working, and the deployment moving forward. So with that, I'm going to pause here. Oh, I'll show one more view. All the data that's being collected from the field, this is a test system for Southern Company, but this is a test data in the system being able to show we're collecting and aggregating information. It can show a report about how much data how many issues are being generated from reports online and show all the work in progress across the entire system. So again, TerraGo has the ability to collect that information and be that presence in front of the customer, but it also has the ability for, on the back end, for utility users, for city users to be able to see what data is being collected, what's being acted on. So having said all that, I'll pause here. I know we're getting to the end of our time, and pause for questions.
All right. Thanks, Chip and Jeremy, for walking us through that. We're going to move into the Q&A now. So I'll read out some of the questions we got from the audience here. Let's see. First one is, can this integrate with our 311 system or work order platform?
Like that one, Jeremy? Yes, absolutely. We've integrated with multiple 311 systems. The city, just off the top of my head, Salesforce is the 311 system for the city of Chicago. And that is how some of the information is coming in directly from that call center. They entered into Salesforce. We have an integration, and that pulls in any of the issues.
Okay, next one. How difficult is this to deploy?
Go to you, Jeremy.
Sure. I hate saying the obvious. Realistically, it's fairly easy to deploy. So as Chip mentioned, right, there's a lot of back end information that needs to be gathered, right? Data flow, make sure that we get the data in place correctly. But for most of the folks on the line, we have a lot of that data. So for from a deployment perspective, it's actually fairly easy. Again, it follows our standard process that we utilize where we sit down with the customer, identify the business rules, right? As hopefully you are aware, this is not a necessarily an out of the box thing, right? We sit with you to determine, hey, what do you want to engage your community with, right? What information do you want to share? What information do you want them to have? What do you want them to report on? Right? Once we go through those requirements gathering phases, the module itself, very easy to deploy. Chip, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add.
No, I think you covered it. And I think Brandon has a question, Madison.
Oh, yeah, if you go ahead. Yep, here it is in the Q&A chat. For the reporting of multiple lights, is this configurable through TerraGo or the business to allow multi-click from the map, or when you select yes from the question, have the ability to select from the map?
Yeah, great question, Brandon. So yeah, we have the ability to allow or to enable a user directly from the front view on the map here. If you look at my browser, Southern Company didn't want it reported this way, so we've shut off the functionality, but you can actually draw an area and say all the lights in this area are out. So it essentially allows you to draw a polygon as a user, or you have the ability inside the workflow to allow them to touch on multiple points and be able to say, yep, I'm reporting these 6 lights out. So if you select the option to say multiple lights, then there's a little map that can pop up and you can select the additional lights in that area that are out. Either option exists for you.
All right. How does this actually reduce call center volume?
That's a great question. So, look, as Madison mentioned, I spent over 20 plus years in the utility industry, right? And I always tell the story of, I am located in Florida, right? We have a lot of retirees in Florida, right? And a lot of retirees in Florida that love to sit on their porch and do nothing but make sure everybody knows what's wrong. And so typically what would happen is you'd get, and I'm sure this is a familiar scenario to most on the phone, right? And what would happen is you'd get a call from someone saying, "Hey, the street light out in front of my house is out." And through right now, a lot of workflow systems for utilities, et cetera, are a little bit disjointed, right? So that a ticket would get created based on that call, based on usually probably PSC or PUC mandates for SLAs. And so a ticket would get created. Well, 2 hours later, lo and behold, their neighbor would also call it in. Unfortunately, because systems can be disjointed, a lot of times what that would do is create another duplicate ticket. And then, quite frankly, somebody would be driving by and call in and report the same issue. The way that this reduces actual call center volume is once you get this out to the community and get usage and buy-in from the community to utilize the mapping system that Chip showed, right? As he showed with Georgia Power, right? He showed on one light, customer went in to click on the light to report it, showed that that was already reported, right? Um, had an ETA, had an estimated time to repair, et cetera. And multiple people could sign up again, according to business rules. Multiple people can sign up for notifications on when the light's repaired. So, and instead of two, three, five, 10 different people calling in for the same issue, so utilizing the customer engagement portal, they can see that a light has already been reported. So typically, um, those would reduce those additional calls coming into the call center.
All right. Looks like this is our last question here. Can we control what the public sees?
100%.
Yep.
100%.
as mentioned, it's 100% configurable. It's not just what does the public see, we actually push out to what you want the public to see. You control it, you tell us what that you want them to have for visibility. For example, in these views, we're just showing a streetlight as a dot. Typically in the main system, when the utility or the city users are looking at the system, it's a more robust data model where it's a pole, it's a fixture, it's a controller. But we only push it out to keep things simple for the community. We push it out typically as a single streetlight, and we can filter which streetlights you want them to see.
And just a slight little add-on to that, not only can you control what the customer can see, you're also allowing folks like your customer care center, folks in your service centers, folks in the field, quite frankly, to see everything as the customer is seeing it. Everybody is utilizing the same data set. Everybody's utilizing and seeing the same information, which is also extremely valuable as well.
All right. With that, we will go ahead and wrap things up for today. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. And we will be sending out a recording after the session. And in the meantime, feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.